Welcome, and thank you for joining us. This is Apprenticeship Today with ABC New Jersey. It's National Apprenticeship Week, and we're up in our Northern New Jersey office in Morris Plains. My name's Chris Claus. I'm Director of Apprenticeship and Education for the chapter. I'm joined by my colleague, Brian Thibault.
Hi, my name is Brian Thibault, and I'm the Vice President of Education and Training at ABC New Jersey. I oversee our training, and part of that is our apprentice program. Happy to be here today to discuss apprenticeship with some of our guests. If you guys wouldn't mind going down the line and kind of introducing yourselves.
Good morning. My name's John Martinez. I'm an apprenticeship training representative for the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. We oversee the apprenticeship system in New Jersey.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Dusza. I'm the apprenticeship coordinator at the Ocean County Vocational Technical School. We currently provide RTI for 4 different trades and have about 500 apprentices currently in our system right now.
Ed Eager, Vice President of Quality Sheet Metal and Welding, also the Vice Chair of ABC New Jersey.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Evan Tarabocchia with, I own a company called Imperial Flooring Systems, and I'm also serving as Chapter Chair of the Board of Directors for ABC New Jersey.
So both Ed and Evan have apprentices in the program, so it's good to have them on board. How I'd like to start out today is each of you has to do with apprenticeship in a certain way. If you could kind of give me a rundown of what you feel apprenticeship is and how you play a role in that.
So when I think of apprenticeship, I think of registered apprenticeship, right? Because there is a difference between apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship. Anybody can say that they have an apprenticeship program, but a registered apprenticeship program has some key components that I think I'm going to get to later on. But when I think of registered apprenticeship, I think of it's a tool that organizations utilize to develop their workforce and to create opportunity for individuals that might not have previously gotten that opportunity.
For me, I see apprenticeship as a way to earn while you learn. Unlike a traditional college where students have to go through a lot of theory before really getting out and being able to utilize those skills, apprentices are able to see those theory, or see that theory put into practice while they're working during the daytime. They're given authentic, problem-based scenarios to work through, and the learning, therefore, is more effective that way.
So actually, off of what John was saying, so we have a couple apprentices that graduated last year.
Yeah, you're an employer sponsor.
Yeah, and we have a couple in it, we have a couple going in it. Mm-hmm. And before that, we did our own programs.
Oh, okay.
And it's the guys that are going through the registered apprenticeship program now through ABC, what a difference as you see them go up the levels, and now that they're out, they're running jobs. So I definitely agree with you that there is a big difference between a registered apprenticeship program and a non-registered. I definitely saw it firsthand.
I believe apprenticeship is a source of how to succeed and where to, like, it kind of builds a growth plan for your business. I find that it's useful from a learning perspective and training, and it kind of gives people the right platform to succeed. That's my take on it.
And I'd like to add, so I was an apprentice myself. I was an electrician for 25 years. I went through a 4-year apprenticeship. It was a great building block for my future. Who knows, years later I ended up running an apprenticeship program, but I see it as a major benefit for people's future. It's a benefit for both the employer and for the individual.
So as we're talking about this, what are some misconceptions that have come up? Like as you are, talking to, as John, as you're talking to people, Jeremy, as you're talking to people, what are some misconceptions that people come in with about apprenticeship?
So some misconceptions are, that it's only in the construction trades, right? I mean, ABC deals with construction, but here in New Jersey, we have several successful programs in every industry that you can imagine. Healthcare. Just yesterday, I was at Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, where they have a registered apprenticeship program in fusion energy.
I've seen it in hospitality.
Absolutely,
Agriculture.
absolutely. Any industry that you can think of, can utilize registered apprenticeship. I mean, apprenticeship itself is hundreds of years old,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
It's the original training tool.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeremy?
I think from a student perspective, misconceptions could possibly be that they're just hours are there, you just have to sit there and you don't really learn anything. I found it to be more beneficial to think about that opportunity to ask questions that they might not be able to have answered during the workday. It's a really good complement to that on-the-job training to have that reinforcement in the related trade instruction. So just being there to get the hours done, I think is a big waste of time, or going in with that mindset is the misconception, where it really can be a benefit and really kind of build the capacity in the student to be able to learn more and perform better on the job.
So you two, do you see any misconceptions on the employer-sponsor side?
So I was trying to figure out what I was going to say to this question, but now that I've heard you two speak, what we've actually seen culture-wise inside of our company was like, it's a waste of time to go to school. Like, it's just not, you're not learning anything. But now they've seen two guys graduate from it. They see the two guys that are in it. I actually got everybody who starts working for me, when can I get into the program?
That's awesome.
So misconception from the employees side too, that it's a waste of time, but then as they've seen the guys grow and they see that they're getting paid more money, they're running jobs now, they're moving, advancing, now everybody wants to get in to the program. So
Yeah, to Ed's point, I would say, you learn things in the classroom that you wouldn't learn in the field. Your foreman might not be teaching you something specific, or
Yeah.
might not be teaching you the related theory behind what they're learning. So it's definitely beneficial to go to
Yeah.
school and to work during the day.
what I learned is the details.
Mhm.
Like I went to Piscataway Tech for welding for 4 years, and you learned not just welding, but you learned the theory behind it, like I said, and that's what they're learning, and it's really helping them.
So I could see
advance.
that from when I went to school, learning the why something rather than just muscle memory. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
You end up with a lot of people in the field that they're trained by foremen and they're trained well on how to do things, but they end up doing it just on muscle memory. And if they ask the question, why do we do this, sometimes foremen are like, oh, it's just the way it's done. When you go to an apprentice program, you learn the why and the theory
Yeah.
behind it, like what's the driving force behind those things.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that those who do not succeed from an academic standpoint end up leaning on this as a potential last-ditch effort, let's say, and join the apprenticeship, where in the end, I think joining the apprenticeship actually has more success stories and more opportunities for growth than maybe that 4-year college degree that people end up going into debt for and stuff like that. So I find it to be more of a success for the apprentice itself.
Well, I think something that goes with that is learning something you're passionate about. So like if
Absolutely.
you are going to a college for something you don't care about, yeah, you're not going to succeed. But if you're doing something that, brings you joy, you're invested in it, and then you end up learning it a lot better.
Mhm.
So
I agree too, and I know guidance counselors historically taking a student that's academically well performing and say that they should be on a college path. I actually sat in a conference a year or so ago with a physics professor at a college saying that he had students that he knew shouldn't be in that class because it was not the right fit for them. So putting them out, they needed to be out in the field doing hands-on work, but they also needed to have that aptitude to be able to perform that. So I think guidance counselors may have the misconception that someone performing academically well should be going to get a college degree, where really they need to find out the student's interests more and trying to create that pathway and see if the trades might be better for them, because then they're going to be more hands-on, and they can still make certainly the same amount of income, if not more, without a lot of college debt and things like that. So I think that's another misconception, which I think is changing, but we still need to do some work there.
Definitely. So a misconception that I see a lot is trainees, potential apprentices think that any hours count. Apprentices in a registered apprenticeship are expected to be performing specific work processes in a predetermined fashion. So an electrician has a certain number of buckets he's supposed to be gaining experience in, like rough wiring type things or finish wiring, and not all companies perform those work processes. So that is definitely a misconception that people think all hours count. The hours are supposed to be structured, and the practical skills are supposed to be gained in a registered apprenticeship that are predetermined by the occupational.
That gives you a well-rounded training,
they get
a well-rounded education.
Correct, and that's been historically a thing from back in the day of guilds and medieval times. The guilds had determined work processes that apprentices were supposed to gain skills in.
I think one more misconception is that registered apprenticeship is a government program, right? It's really industry driven. All of the training guides are done with industry standards, right? Industry is the one that tells us how long it takes to become a plumber or an electrician, or any occupation, right? A lot of folks think that the government is really in your business when you start a registered apprenticeship program, right? And I think you guys can attest. What our job is to help create the program, right? Make sure that it's operating under our federal guidelines and industry standards, right? So that the completers of the program can receive the post-secondary, the nationally recognized post-secondary credential, the certificate of completion from the U.S. Department of Labor, right? But once we help the organization create that program, it really is their program. I'm not calling you guys every week saying, hey, what's going on with this apprentice or that apprentice? I'm here if you need me, but once the program's operational, you may hear from me in terms of like in a regulatory fashion, right? If I want to do a program review, you might hear from me every few years. But besides that, I always answer emails or questions. But it's your program. Yeah. As long as there are no issues, you're not really going to hear from me.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, it's still nice to have that communication with the Department of Labor, so that if we have questions or if we want some guidance, it's always good to be able to reach out and have that. So the U.S. Department of Labor does a good job of answering those questions and help facilitating our program.
Yeah, having that standardized structure is definitely important.
Right.
I do believe, also just to add to that, the unfortunate aspect of these misconceptions also lead to the kind of the labor shortage that we're dealing with in terms of construction or other industries that we don't see people excelling in or proceeding with. So it's nice to kind of avoid some of those labor shortages, and we've seen a large growth in construction-related apprenticeship growth. So when we see that, I mean, that's great. I mean, hopefully we'll fill voids in the future for that. So.
Great.
So my next question is actually back to John. Why should a company take the time to register into an apprenticeship program rather than just doing in-house training?
I get that question a lot, right? And one of the first follow-up questions that I immediately after they ask that question, they say, well, what if I train the employee and then they leave? And my first answer to that is, well, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good one.
So, historically, that is really not true, where, you train a guy and they leave. There have been many case studies done about the benefits of registered apprenticeship. And one of the main ones I like to focus on is employee retention, right? Because that's important and it ties kind of all the other benefits together. So, if you have continuity, right? You have a well-trained individual, right? They tend to stay, right? When you invest in your workforce, they tend to stay. And now you have continuity, right? Which is important with any organization, whether it's construction, business, sports, whatever it is. Continuity is important, right? As well as employee development. So when you have continuity, you have productivity, and that productivity positively increases or impacts the bottom line, right? So that's a big benefit, and that's usually kind of where I go when somebody asks me that question.
I'm going to go to our employer sponsors. What made each of you decide to put somebody into an apprentice program?
Well,
And then actually a follow-up to that
Yeah.
is, Ed, you spoke to this a little bit earlier, but after you put somebody in the program, what were there any benefits that you didn't see, like that you didn't expect that you ended up getting?
well, I mean, the benefits of putting somebody in the program is just the guys that we've had in it have excelled. I mean, clearly, before they went into the program, I think the first two guys that went in, we actually were employed by us for 4 years before they even went in. And we trained them, we had on-the-job training and stuff like that. So, and both of them came from different trades, and went into the sheet metal trade that we're in. And once they went into the apprenticeship program, they just accelerated. You know, they went from, I don't know if they're really capable of running jobs to running huge jobs for us now. You know, you always see a benefit. Even the guys that are in it now for a couple of years, you see them advance, and it's just worth it. I mean, it's worth it it's great to see them grow. They get excited about it. They, you know, everybody around them now is like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah, nice.
You
I
know,
love that.
so it's good.
Yeah.
But as far as, I think the original question was why we did it.
Yes.
We always tried to train ourselves, and as an owner, I just, you know, it just falls short, like you were saying. It's always good intentions to train, but then you get busy. Well, you know what? We'll push that off until next week. This guy's training. You have other guys train them off of the material that you have. You're trying to make material. You're trying to find material from places, and it just isn't set up in the same way an apprenticeship program is set up.
Yeah, so the structure of the
So,
apprenticeship program
yeah,
is beneficial for
yeah,
you.
exactly what
developing your
John was
workforce.
saying. It, like everything that you're saying, I'm going, yeah, that's exactly what.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to us. Wow. Okay.
So a lot of companies may get into it because of legislation. So like public works contractors need to be in a registered apprenticeship program. So that has been a driving force for a lot of companies. Again, 25 years ago, I was in an electrical apprenticeship, so we were doing apprenticeship a long time ago, and that was not mandatory. But nowadays, there's a mandatory need for it, so that drives a lot of people to it. But that wasn't the
Well,
case.
I mean, of course, yes, we had to do that because of it. It
Yeah.
definitely helped out. It
Right.
showed us the path that is better.
But you found it to be
And
beneficial.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely beneficial. You know.
Well, and I think that's a goal of like ours, and probably Jeremy as well, is like even if people, whatever reason somebody comes to you
Yeah.
for training, you want to turn around and put out a good product that,
Right.
you know, people are like, hey, like we gained a benefit, not just getting a public works certificate, like we got a well-trained workforce now. So,
It definitely pushed us to do it, and it's been great ever since.
I believe it actually developed a merit type of philosophy where you're starting into an industry of construction, let's say, and starting from, you know, scratch, let's call it, learning along the way and being taught. I thought created a pretty good environment within my company. I think what helped me out most is those with years of experience kind of became the coaches and mentors to those younger and those entering the industry. So it kind of gave them the ability to say, hey, let's work hard on training this person because this could be a product of what I'm teaching. And that environment just created a whole teamwork of a company culture that ultimately helped out a lot. So.
Yes.
I'm actually going to turn to Chris on this next one. Many companies worry about an administrative burden. How does ABC New Jersey try to simplify that for people that put apprentices in through us?
Okay, so ABC New Jersey is a construction association, and as a benefit to our members, we provide the apprenticeship program. Some companies are large enough to run their own registered apprenticeship program, but there's a lot of nuance to that and legality. Instead, if you join ABC, you get the us running the program, that we act as liaison with the DOL. I again register employer sponsors on Rapid's page, and then I also register their apprentices. We also provide a data recording software called Flashpoint right now that we use to clock OJL, so that takes that burden off of the employer. The way it's structured right now, the apprentice actually logs the hours, the employer sponsors then verify the hours, and then ABC maintains the records. At any given time, we can generate a report that shows which work processes have been logged for their OJL. We can also find out exactly where they are in their academic portions, their RTI, and then we can also predict the look ahead of when they are expected to complete the program. So I feel like that takes a lot of the administrative burden off of the employees.
So rather than have to track and pay for
that takes pretty much everything.
So I mean, based off that response, that seems accurate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
This is not something you want to go alone at by any means. So.
Yeah. And some companies are very large and have the ability to do it. But we also have large companies that still come to us for registered apprenticeship. And then again, we also provide the curriculum that is DOL approved, that we use for our RTI as well. So yet another burden.
It really is. It really is helpful to, especially to small companies that don't have, that feel like they don't have the capacity to do it, and you kind of act as a second HR department for these organizations, and it takes a burden off of us as well, because when I have a small, and my workload, I manage over 500 programs in the state of New Jersey, right? I'd say, I don't know, 75-80% are small mom and pops. So at that point, I kind of have to help them and kind of serve in that role. And you guys really take the burden off not only them but us as well.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, you just want to make sure that everything's on the playing field. When you're an employer that's, we're a smaller employer, and just we would not have the resources to manage a program like that.
Yeah, and in the state of New Jersey, licensure for some of our occupations, registered apprenticeship is an aspect of that. So there's some people that may have generationally received a company that now need to apply for a license but have never done a registered apprenticeship. So they come to ABC, and the end result is they are able to sit for their license in their preferred occupation.
So a question I have for you, Jeremy. You help out a lot with curriculum, providing RTI, and then several companies that might not jump in using an ABC use you guys as related theory instruction. How do you align your curriculum with the needs of those employers and trade businesses like these guys here?
Well, our curriculum we use is DOL approved, and we provide that to our instructors. They put their own spin on it. We're using their industry experience and knowledge of how things are done to kind of meld the theory, which can be maybe depending on the student's educational level, could be difficult to navigate. So I feel that they're going to take that complex vocabulary and they're able to put it into more common terms and things that they may be seeing out on the job site, and trying to explain then and making it more clear so that they can understand and be prepared.
And you have several students that come through your program, correct? What's your numbers looking like right now? I think you said around 500.
Yeah, I
apprentices?
looked 489 for this year.
That's awesome.
We're graduating about 100 of them out of that, so it is a fairly large amount. Absolutely.
Not only do they provide the related technical instruction, right, the theory, but they also provide a critical service that not all vocational technical schools do, right? We have a very, very close relationship with Ocean County Vocational School. So every time I approve an apprentice that is going to school at Ocean County Vocational School, I send them a lot of the pertinent information about the apprentices, so that they can let their students know, hey, you guys are registered. Because a lot of times, these small mom and pops, they'll register somebody, but they don't follow through with some of the, some of the tasks that they should. Where students are like, "Am I registered?" They also do a good job of explaining that if their goal is to get their license for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, that they need to be registered with the U.S. Department of Labor, right? So they send out letters to employers to let them know, to give them my contact information, and they keep track of who's registered and who's not, so that they can kind of stay on top of that, and it really helps everybody out.
So that goes back to another misconception that we might have missed early on. There's a lot of people that go to a school, think that they are a actual registered apprentice,
Absolutely.
and they are not. So that's great that Ocean County is
Yep.
taking care of that, because that's clearing up one of those misconceptions.
Sure, that we're very clear and explicit. It's surprising how many students think when they're registered for the class that they're registered with the DOL, and we have to clear up that misconception. Absolutely,
I get
it's
so
a
many-
separate process.
I get so many phone calls from people that are applying to sit for their test that have never been registered as an apprentice, and they think, "What do you mean? I went to school. The school says that they're an apprenticeship program." So that communication is so important.
Another question for John. What would you say are key components of a high-quality apprentice program?
So every registered apprenticeship program has to have the 5 core components, right? The first is employer involvement. Without employers, there is no registered apprenticeship, right? Structured on-the-job learning under the guidance of experienced mentors, right? That's the second. The third is the related technical instruction, right? The theory or the why behind the on-the-job learning. The fourth is a progressive pay scale, right? So as the apprentices are gaining skills and competencies, they're being rewarded for it through pay increases, right? We at the U.S. Department of Labor, we don't mandate what an organization pays their apprentices, but we just, it just has to be a progressive scale. And the last component is that credential, the nationally recognized post-secondary credential, the certificate of completion of the U.S. Department of Labor. So one of our functions, right, as U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, is we kind of act as an accreditation agency, right? So we will work with an organization to start their registered apprenticeship program and accredit it, right, so that at the end their completers can receive that nationally recognized credential, right? And then we'll follow up doing periodical reviews to make sure that they're still operating under our federal guidelines, right? So those are the 5 key components of every registered apprenticeship program.
Let's talk to our employer sponsors, Ed and Evan. When it comes to on-the-job learning, I know that ABC shoulders some of that responsibility. You guys still have to have somebody signing off on that.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like at each of your companies?
Well, I mean, for my company, actually, I do it myself.
Okay.
'Cause I want to make sure that the guys are learning what they have to learn. Like you said, they have to do certain things. They got to be in the shop for a certain amount of time. They got to be in the field. They got to be doing certain tasks. So I'm trying to really put them, making sure they're on different jobs to do that different stuff. So, and again, it's real easy. We just time tracking system with the hours that the guys put in there, and we just check it to make sure it's good. And it's actually, with ABC, it just simplifies it.
Oh, yeah. And then when you go on a prevailing wage job, you can just check their position on the wage scale and pay them appropriately.
Yeah, yep.
That's correct. I agree with everything Ed just said a moment ago. I would say that our apprentices are in the field. We're on the job learning from the moment they start, which is what we feel to be definitely our responsibility from that regard. And then we lean on ABC on the clerical stuff and also the in-person training and stuff like that. So when we look at on the job, what do they see on the job? I mean, typically they'll start out helping and assisting others I guess we'll see that the first couple of months, and then leading into more progressive roles, taking on tasks, obviously being monitored accordingly, and then after that, having that leadership role to kind of take on different scopes of work. So I think that's where we see the apprentices kind of grow into that, so long as they're tied correctly with the right mentors and colleagues and stuff like that. So that's what we do. Yep.
I'm going to shift focus to our training people, so Chris and Jeremy. How do you guys help employers attract a diverse talent pool?
Would you like to go first?
Sure.
So thinker.
We have some pre-apprentice classes, I guess would be the best way to tackle that. We do that in carpentry, electric, plumbing, and HVAC. Adult students can take all 4 of those within a calendar school year. So I think having them exposed to different trades would create some diversity in that. So, they'll have somebody that might have, they might be coming to get into an electrical position, but might have some carpentry and plumbing background. And I think all those experiences are valuable in any trade because they all overlap to some degree in a lot of ways.
So when you look up apprenticeship on the internet, a lot of times it'll point you towards ABC. So we get resumes all the time from random applicants. But we work directly with youth outreach companies and career development companies that will bring people into our facilities. We'll go over hands-on, do some instructional sessions and things, pre-apprenticeship style, sessions. And then we also, I visit schools frequently for career fairs. We go to secondary education schools, and I meet a lot of different people. I receive a lot of different resumes. So I am never at a loss for applicants. Just finding places for them to go is probably one of the biggest challenges that I find in that task. So there's a deficit in the trades where for every 8 people leaving the trades, there's only 1 replacing them. So there is a need for workers, but finding a place for those workers when they are looking is the biggest challenge I do find.
I know that with my experience, a lot of people are, I want somebody experienced. I want a 5-year
Right.
experienced person. It's
Yeah,
like, well, that person is hired. So unless you're ready to
Poach them somewhere.
Right. Which we don't encourage poaching from member companies, of course, But finding placement for people is definitely a challenge. But again, there's never any shortage of applicants. It's just what type of applicant are employers looking for?
matching that applicant to the spot that they're looking.
Correct. And then serving the entire state of New Jersey. Where in New Jersey are they at?
Right.
And where can I send them? So.
Jeremy, you talked about, you did say you have some pre-apprentice programs there. Is there any options for anybody to try out a trade before committing to it? So like you talked about somebody that is coming in for electrical but might have carpentry or plumbing background. Is there any place where they can make a decision partially through and switch?
Well, we do that at the high school level. We have pre-apprentice programs pretty much in all trades. What's nice about those programs also, they involve with cooperative education, so they can really go out and try it. They can work up to 4 days a week in place of going to school while they're getting paid. So, and a lot of times those turn into full-time hirings after that, and then they'll go into our apprentice program. So the high school students have that ability, and again, our adult students, we have kind of the introductory classes, which are hands-on, unlike the full-force apprentice classes, so that they can really, get the skills to, or get the experience to know if they like doing it, but then having those entry-level skills so that they are hireable, and then meeting our requirement to be working for someone to register for an apprentice class.
Jeremy, are you guys still offering like the general introduction to construction class?
We have we call them all basic home systems.
Right.
We have carpentry, basic carpentry, and finished carpentry that we're doing. So, yes.
So, to my employer sponsors, when you are hiring somebody, what qualities are you looking for somebody that you'd put into the apprentice program, hoping that they would be successful?
You want to start?
Yeah, so if I, qualities, if I'm looking at somebody that shows up, I mean, for us, I know it sounds like kind of blunt, but for us, we do a lot of traveling. So we'll do work in New York City, the whole state of New Jersey, Eastern PA. That's a pretty broad aspect of location. So the ability to be able to get to job sites on time, having the mental attitude of being on time and learning or being coachable, I think is also very important. The eagerness to learn, I think, is extremely important. So if I'm looking to place somebody into an apprenticeship, that's kind of the qualities that I'm looking for. Having skill doesn't matter. I think skill can grow over time, and I think that could also be learned. Even the physical aspects of terrazzo installation, for that matter. It's heavy work, but I think all of that could be groomed over a period of time. I think it's having the right attitude that makes the most sense, that we find.
Yeah, believe it or not, the most successful employees that we've hired have come from either other trades or, even from landscaping to pool to. If they just have a mechanical ability and they have a good work ethic, teaching them the sheet metal is the easy part.
So I'm going to have
to look at putting them into an apprenticeship program. I mean, one of my questions on an interview is, what are your hobbies?
Okay.
Are your hobbies sitting on video game, or are you tinkering with your car and a bicycle? And it gives you a good idea of if they really have that.
Okay, so that actually leads into my next question, where it is. When we do apprenticeship presentations, we always say 3 things that would make you hireable. Show up on time, desire to succeed, willingness to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the hard part of that is, how do you show that on an interview? How do you show that on a resume? That's really hard to kind of, but you kind of answered that a little bit by asking about the hobbies thing. I actually never thought of that. What are they doing in their free time? Are they filling it with something useful, or are they?
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's not always works out the best, but you kind of get an idea of who a person is when you're talking to them.
I think that's where kind of the pre-apprenticeship programs can kind of serve a vital role, right? Because they have to show up to class for a certain number of weeks, right? You take their attendance, right? And it's a quality pre-apprenticeship is basically designed to get somebody ready for a registered apprenticeship program. So and I think that's also one of the reasons that registered apprenticeship is a really good tool, right? Because employers are able to design minimum qualifications for entrance into a registered apprenticeship program, right? So you as a company can say, all right, these are the minimum qualities that I need. I mean, you may decide, they do have to be measurable, but you may decide, hey, we need some kind of mechanical skill, right? So there are tests that are available to measure those mechanical skills. So that's another tool that's able to be utilized for registered apprenticeship.
Yeah, I'm a fan of pre-apprenticeship. It also allows people to get experience and see if they do like it, because you don't want to get invested in something and then give up halfway. So when I register people on RAP, there's lines of completed and active. Cancellations is the least favorite line. I hate having to cancel an apprentice, because again, you're giving up on something that was potentially a career, and if you like it, you should stick with it. So finding applicants that are ambitious and that are interested in the occupation that they're getting involved in, I think is definitely a major qualifier for finding good people.
Yeah, and I think we were one of the original ones that ran the core program back in the day for ABC.
Yeah.
Right. And I was actually very surprised at what you actually learned in that core program, well, like you're saying, and I was trying just to test it out and show up on test days without reading it to see if I could,
How good you
like,
did.
just to see how
Right.
it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is pretty good.
So the core
This is,
program is like a pre-apprenticeship course, and
Right.
it has like
Yeah.
safety, material handling, construction math, reading
Mhm.
blueprints, and things like that. And it's all stuff that you might not think about, and then when you're learning, like, oh, this is really an asset.
yeah.
You know, I've ran people through it that have been in the field for 10 years, and seen
Yeah.
them struggle with some of the tests.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
That's what I said. I was,
You're learning
I was
stuff now.
surprised. Yeah. You're really learning.
you know, but
Yeah.
So, John, are there any financial incentives or tax credits for any available to any companies that want to launch programs?
So the state of New Jersey offers a few registered apprenticeship centered grant programs. There's a program called Gains Grant, which is growing apprenticeship in non-traditional sectors. It does say non-traditional sectors, but construction companies do apply, and they do receive them all the time. So through that grant, you can receive funds for to pay for a portion of their on-the-job training, and to pay for a portion of their related technical instruction, some administrative costs and things like that. The state also offers a pre-apprenticeship grant called a PACE grant, which again, registered apprenticeship is heavily involved in that PACE grant. There is a $5,000 tax credit through the state as well. And there are also ways that that one-stop career centers are able to utilize state funds to support registered apprenticeship through on-the-job training contracts and what they call individual training accounts, which could cover some of their related technical instruction costs.
All right, so this next question is to everybody. What emerging technology do you think will change apprenticeship within the next 5 years? So like examples, AI, automation, green energy, things like that.
AI is the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's probably, I think that's first and foremost. It's being utilized in a lot of cool ways. Mapping rooms is really neat. I like that, seeing the MEPs mapped out by a robot. I've seen robots mapping out designs on the floor for walls and stuff like that, doing room layout.
But you still need a person to.
But you still need
Absolutely.
a
So,
person.
with our trades, with the
Yeah.
trades.
Yeah, I don't think AI is gonna replace somebody going in to install your HVAC system, but
Yeah.
it is important that that companies start utilizing those tools, because if you don't become familiar with it, you're gonna fall behind.
Right. Yeah.
I actually had to do some research because I'm not as visionary involved in the industries, but what I found, which John, maybe I don't know if this would be acceptable, but they're saying using digital tools like photo and video to upload proof of their work processes. I don't know if that might be something, using a current technology, if that replaces what's currently happening. Or right now it's just a task sheet, right? I don't know if they have to really provide any proof of work or.
So I mean, there are different databases that people, I think you guys use one.
Yeah. I mean, we use the ONET codes, and then that's established on our standards. So when we submit the Appendix A's, it says that this occupation will perform this, this, and this. So when our apprentices are logging hours, they're putting them in those specific categories.
But do you use a database for tracking those hours?
Flashpoint.
Yeah, Flashpoint would be the software. That's where we keep our academics. That's where we keep our
Attendance.
Attendance.
Our
That's where we keep our OJL.
And I've utilized AI recently, right, for when somebody sends me a work process, right, for, a most recent one is robotics technician, right? They sent me a work process for a robotics technician. I looked it over myself. It looked good, but I wanted to test our AI tools. So I put it in there. You have to know how to prompt these things to get the answer that you're looking for. But basically, I asked it, does this meet the needs, registered apprenticeship needs for on-the-job learning and related technical instruction, and does it meet industry standards? And it spit both. So I tested two different forms of AI, and they both said yes. One was more thorough than the other. And it was able to kind of cross-reference, all of the on-the-job training tasks with the related technical instruction portion. So it's definitely a tool that is going to help me do my job.
Right, right. Well, how about you guys in the construction field?
So, I mean, what we really see is we're actually doing a big push into AI to do stuff. But what we're seeing is the apprenticeship, I mean, you still have to train. It's really not going to affect apprenticeship. What it's really going to affect is past working in the field, right? So you're estimating, you're going to have less jobs in estimating, you're going to have less jobs in the office. So it's almost like the guys are going to have to stay in the field longer now in their careers instead of graduating into the office, because there's going to be less of them jobs in the office to go to.
Yeah.
So the apprenticeship is almost going to become more important to really be there.
Something
along
I
with
recall.
the safety and keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah, I
be able to
had
work.
visited your shop the one time. Fabrication was another thing that technology. So you guys can 3D print.
I was about to bring that up,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
awesome.
You can 3D print a part that's no longer made. You
It's
can
amazing
manufacture
what you can
one.
do with that now.
Yeah, the 3D printing is pretty
Yeah.
revolutionary. With
You also said about just like you could do a trial run on something to see how something's going to fit together before actually having to invest in like the full-on
absolutely.
materials.
Yeah, we'll build we'll bring it to the customer's location. We'll actually kind of put it in, and then if it works, we go back and we make it out of metal.
there you go.
3D printer and plastic first.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
I think we've seen a lot of push from a construction perspective, like from an administrative side using AI, but I actually think looking forward in future, we'll probably see it more from an instructional standpoint on the apprenticeship aspect. I think how apprentices are gathering their information, learning, taking pictures of events and things, and seeing the progress of that, if that actually followed suit or not. I mean, I think I definitely see a future in more so in the field-oriented aspects than just taking over administrative stuff in the office, through the use of pictures and diagrams and all of that stuff. The need for instructors still be necessary to look at stuff, but I mean, AI will definitely help out a lot.
I've seen the simulation platforms are also, I think, becoming more advanced, making it more possible to be doing scenarios that with equipment that you don't have, also in a safer environment, right? You're not going to be subjected to electrocution or whatever other hazards are on the job. So I think that those simulators are becoming more comprehensive and inclusive into the different trades.
Yeah. Now we have a heavy equipment operator simulator that's just like sitting in the seat of a machine, but you're not
Right.
spending the gas money.
Multiple seats, right?
Yeah,
Different
yes.
equipment, right?
Yep. You're not spending the gas money. There's no one at risk of getting hurt,
Right.
and you don't have to maintain the equipment.
No, you still got to maintain it a little bit.
An update here. or there.
Yeah, it's not shooting hydraulic fluid anymore.
Nice.
That's cool.
So, to everybody as well, what advice would you pass on to people looking to start or to get involved in an apprenticeship?
Guess I'll start.
Yeah.
Just reach out to us at the U.S. Department of Labor. It's really not as difficult as you think, I promise. We've got a great staff. We're responsive, and we'll get you going.
My advice would be it's not a punishment. You're not being told you have to do this. It's an investment, and a very cost-effective investment into a career. Comparing costs to college, as we talked about earlier, it's significantly less. It's job-ready skills right away, and it's a safe place, as I mentioned, to really learn more about the whys that we've been talking about, why you're learning things, to, as I say, really troubleshoot things. You're going out, and if you're just learning this is the way to do it, unless that situation is presented in exactly that same way, you may get into a roadblock or an obstacle. But if you can understand the reasoning why you're learning things, then you can break it down to the different variables that may be contributing to that problem, and then finding the solution in that way. So just being open-minded in that way, and seeing it as a benefit rather than a punishment, or that your employer's telling you to do, or thinking about a career that you're getting into.
Yeah.
So as in employer, I would say, get into ABC or something to have a program that's good. As an employee, I would say if you're going to an interview, ask the question, when can I get into this program?
Yep.
I want to get into this program, I want to learn, and just really make sure that the company you're going to has a robust program. Look into it, make sure it's registered with the Department of Labor, and and really push to hold their feet to the fire to put you into it.
Yeah, earn your credential.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I also would say that you want to go fully involved. From an employer perspective, you want to be all in, because if you try to half go in, let's say, I think that's I think that'll ultimately hurt
Very
your company.
correct.
Yes.
Very polite. Very
Right.
polite. I like that.
I think it's important to fully go in. That's my point. And I also, me personally, don't do it alone. If you're in the construction field, ABC has been a big supportive of that and helped us out tremendously with our trade. So I would say that that's extremely important.
Yeah.
But go in. You don't want to be in a scenario where you damage your culture of the business in any way by kind of halving it, let's say.
Yeah. So again, we're frequently in front of young people, and I always say that apprenticeship is a building block for your career. Like you might not get paid as much when you first get into it, but in the future, it pays out in dividends.
Play
And
the
then-
long game.
Play the long game. Like you may start off at a minimum wage that you could get the same thing flipping a burger, but you're not going to be flipping a burger in 10 years. You could still be in the trades in 10 years.
And much further along.
And much further along and doing very well. Plus, the added benefit is you learn how to do things yourself, and you end up not having to pay people to do things. That was a benefit for me as an electrician. I've never paid anyone to work on any electric in my house.
And not just
know.
electric, you get to know other aspects of
Oh,
the trade.
yeah.
You learn
You learn
carpentry,
everything,
you
yeah.
learn plumbing, you learn HVAC.
Yeah.
Or you get friends that
Or you get
are in
friends.
the trades that feel like, hey, I'll
You get a
I'll
lot
buy
of
you
friends.
lunch.
Yeah.
I think it's important too to because our pre-apprentice students, that when they're the next step would be to go get a job, and it can be, I would imagine, uncomfortable asking a person that you're interviewing with if you'd be willing to sponsor me, because they always think that there's a monetary value attached to that. So I give them some talking points to talk to an employer and ask them if they'd be willing to sponsor them, because number one, it can give them a public work certificate. It's going to give them a highly skilled employee that's committed and motivated to get a license, and that would sustain the company and make it more scalable. So trying to give them some talking points to show the seriousness of a future employer, and more than likely make them a more viable candidate.
Well, I agree with that,
good
because
point.
going back to what I asked before about how do you show that you have a desire to succeed, a willingness to learn
Right.
on an interview, and asking a question like that is showing that employer hey, this guy
Yeah, he's going
wants
to be here for
he's
a
gonna
while,
be
right?
here,
And he's
yeah.
going to be solid,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
So, talking about the licenses, when I just renewed my HVAC license, I know they talked about the plumbing and the HVAC average age of a license is in the upper 50s, right?
okay.
So, if you're a young person coming into this trade and you could pick up any license by the time you're 30, 35, I mean,
You're going to be in a good spot.
you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah.
I think I don't have the exact number or reference point for this, but I heard that the average age of a tradesperson is mid-40s right now too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, because people have been sold different kinds of occupations, and construction has kind of gotten overlooked. So schools don't sell the trades as much. So when I go into schools, I'm speaking to children or young adults that have never thought about construction, and it's a viable option.
Yeah.
and not a back seat, not a second choice. It's
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's also, I think part of the issue with that as well is the mindset of some of these companies where, like you said, I'm looking for a fifth-year guy. I'm looking for somebody who's got at least 5 years of experience, rather than thinking the long game and saying I'm going to start developing talent. I'm going to train them how I want them trained, so that when somebody leaves, I've got this guy in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Majority of the time, when you hire somebody with 10 or plus years experience, you have to figure out what bad habits
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
break.
You got
Right.
10 or plus year bad habits.
Instead of developing them into what
Yeah.
you want them to be.
And you got to learn them the hard way usually.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a better way to go.
Yeah, I usually encourage young applicants to seek apprenticeship, seek companies that are willing to train. Again, it's hard to get people placed sometimes, but once they're in, they develop a career.
So, that's all I have. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about in terms of
Final
apprenticeships?
thoughts?
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Workforce pipeline. I really like what John just said a second ago. I think building the workforce from the beginning, not looking at that fifth-year person or somebody with 10 to 15, 20 years experience, I think is not the way to go in a labor shortage type of industry. I think you need to start young and move forward in that direction and train while they're young.
Create
I couldn't
awareness.
agree more
Yeah.
with that than what John just mentioned. That's a very
It
good
works.
point.
It works. It's
it
proven to
works.
work. It is
It does.
It's a bipartisan issue, right? How many bipartisan issues do you see nowadays, right?
Not
But
many.
but every administration that comes in, whether it's local or at the federal level, supports registered apprenticeship, and it's because it works.
Yeah.
And for all those reasons, educationally, it should be a first choice, not a
Yeah.
second choice, right, or a
Absolutely.
backup plan.
Yeah. That's why I
Yeah.
love vocation. I love visiting vocational schools and seeing that kind of stuff in effect. I love being a part of what we do, because I've lived it, and it pays off as the individual and it pays off for the employers. So,
Yeah, I agree.
So what I would say in terms of apprenticeship is you have resources, member companies that sponsor people who have been through it. You can always ask them questions. Trade schools, good source of information. The Department of Labor is always willing to answer questions. And then us at ABC, even if we don't know the answer, we have all of these resources that we can point you in the right direction of that answer. So, any final thoughts, Chris?
no, I think that about wraps it up. So I'd like to thank
Yeah.
everybody for joining us and being a part of this.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. If anyone has any thoughts, questions, please feel free to reach out. And hopefully we get to do this again. This should be a recurring thing. We'll do Apprenticeship Today, maybe bi-monthly. We'll see how it works out.
All right.
But again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.